So for last but not least event of the day, pour le dernier mais non pas le moindre panel de la journée, j'aimerais accueillir sur la scène our very own Chief of Defense Staff, General Jennie Carignan, as well as former CDS General Retired Tom Lawson.
Chief, it is so great to have you here. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, this was just a brilliant idea to have the Chief of Defense Staff as our closing thing on such a remarkable conference. We knew we'd be able to drag everybody back in, but you know what, Guy, we were never going to lose anybody for any of those panels. They were just incredible. A little frightening, Chief, but remarkable. And I have to say, the results are in. The winning wing base for representation here is 12 wing under the command of Colonel Tara Willis. Yeah. Yeah, all the staff are looking at me and say, we don't have an award for that. Yeah, we certainly will. The mention is the reward right in front of your chief, and I know she's got her entire command team from both coasts, so hopefully there's no requirement for maritime air for the next couple of days. Well done. So, ladies and gentlemen, one of the key takeaways for me from this conference is the fact that everything is speeding up. Last panel scared all of us. I kind of like that Darcy said that things that used to take 5 years happen in weeks now. 10 years ago, I kind of liked when things took 5 years to happen. I can't imagine what the pace is like in your office now. So right off the bat, thank you for your leadership at such a critical time. And thanks for making the time to be with us here today. Now, it's going to come as no surprise to anyone in the audience that General Carignan comes with a sparkling collection of accomplishments. I'm not going to pain you with all of them, but I have to bring attention to a couple of them, Jenny. Before she joined the forces, she was already doing some incredible things, and you may have heard that she was a AAA level competitive dancer. I put the AAA in there because I think in terms of hockey, but I'm not going to go through a lot of things after that, except that upon graduating from RMC with an engineering degree, you had me at hello. I love you. She commissioned into the Canadian Military Engineers in 1990, which really doesn't seem that long ago. Along the way, she commanded 2 combat engineering regiments, was Commandant of the Royal Military College in Saint-Jean, then commanded the 2nd Canadian Division. She led the NATO mission in Iraq in 2019-2020. Command chops, check. She came to her current post in 2024 after 3 years as the Chief of Professional Conduct and Culture. On top of her engineering degree, she's picked up 2 master's degrees, one from Laval and one from the U.S. Army Command and General Staff College. In-depth thought capabilities, check. And we haven't even touched on her most valued accomplishments. She is the mother of 4 children, 2 of whom we were just talking about are proudly serving in uniform as well. Jenny, can we hope that maybe one of them becomes a professional dancer? Good, we'll see.
It's not on that.
It's not in the cards.
No, not in the cards.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, we've decided that the Chief is going to give her remarks from the seat instead of being hidden by the podium. So, ladies and gentlemen, I give you your Chief of Defense.
Thank you, Tom, for the kind introduction. 94th year of this conference that I'm tracking, and it is quite a remarkable feat. In fact, that basically shines a light on the importance of such an event, and even more so in the current context and global environment. So bringing together people from all fields and backgrounds to discuss the problems of security and defense is a key enabler for us anyways in educating ourselves in those fields. So congratulations to you, but also Dr. Piché and the whole CDA team for putting this together and gathering us together for this extensive dialogue. And then again, so important in a context of complexity, but also a lot of uncertainties. And this is what I draw from the current dialogue that we have with both the public, but also inside with various partners. There is a demand for a lot of certainty at the moment, and this is a tough place to navigate, and accepting that things are not all going to be clear today and that things are going to evolve is extremely important. So how do we communicate and how do we explain those very complex issues with our various partners is incredibly complex and difficult. There's been a lot covered during the conference. The threats faced by Canada, so glad that there was also a session on mobilization and national service. Those are all near and dear to my heart. My team was also here present throughout both days of the conference, going over their own portfolio and a massive transformation that is currently ongoing in the CAF. So I won't go over that, but what I want to do is bring a bit of a chapeau or umbrella over top of everything that we are doing. I want to cover a few things, some of the priorities that we are after, how we position ourselves globally, and also what does this mean in terms of transformation and the effect that we are trying to have. So we are rearming, we are rebuilding our warfighting capabilities, and I think this needs to be absolutely clear in the path that we are on for the next, next 10 years. What we were asked to do post-Cold War is not what we are being asked to do today and for the future. So it is incredibly important that we understand that the reason we are in this posture today is related to the type of missions we've been asked to do post-Cold War. And one example that I use consistently is air defense systems. If you do counterinsurgency operations in a context of air supremacy, air defense systems are not required, and therefore we equip our services with the capabilities that are required for the type of operations that we are being asked to do. So that shift is quite clear, and this is why we are on this path over the next 10 years to rebuild warfighting capabilities that are related to large-scale conflicts amongst state-on-state conflicts. We are prioritizing people and readiness, and the way the new investments were crafted definitely goes towards supporting that priority. A culture of excellence, organizational culture, professional conduct, building strong teams is at the heart of what we are doing. So the social dynamics that are currently at play, where we do observe extremism taking more place, is a source of a concern for us, because these are the people we are onboarding in our schools. So that focus on professional culture is at the heart of what we are consistently doing. how we socialize new CAF members as part of this organization, and how we deal with conflicts and complaints, again, is extremely important. You may have noticed as well that at the strategic level within National Defense Headquarters, we have engaged on strategic level restructure, and the priority was put on our human resource management and how we organize our human resources. So we have merged some organizations together to ensure that on the HR space, both on the military and on the civilian, that we are much more robust, and that we can enable strategic management, because as we grow the CAF, we have to be able to better manage this growth and forecast the requirements that we need. Recruiting and retention has been a top priority. Again, growing back to our full complement, but also growing past that due to the new capabilities that we will be onboarding over the next few years. On the transformation aspect, all the services are ongoing major, massive transformation. The Air Force, Navy, and the Army of the future will look very different in 10 years' time. But also you've heard about Joint Forces Command just before this panel, I understand. Yes. So the lead point to lead the joint capabilities, because the future will all be about pan-domain operation, and we have to make sure that we give ourselves the tool to manage this pan-domain, which has not been a priority in the past, but now with the ongoing analysis of future battlefields, we need to be able to consolidate our domain awareness amongst all services, but also being able to evolve in the defeat and defense space in the all-domain aspect. You've also heard about the Canadian all-domain plan, which is a new thing that we need to get to. Our geography does not protect us as well as it used to, and therefore a plan and resource our defense of the Arctic, our posture in the country to assert our own sovereignty is incredibly important, and hence a focus on the Canadian territory, which frankly, many years ago, we could use as an economy of effort, because we were projecting security outside of Canada itself. So this brings me to the global orientation. What is the priority in that sense? So Canada and the Arctic are definitely the priority. Our commitment to NATO, achieving our capability targets, moving up to the 3.5% investment of GDP in defense is a focus of our efforts, collective defense in Europe. And then thirdly, the Indo-Pacific is also a priority as part of our defense policy. So those orientations are very clear, and this is how we are positioning and then preparing for our transformation that are highlighted in that posture. And of course, you're all very aware of the current crisis in the Middle East, the conflict in the Middle East. Preserving a little bit of capability as well to be able to respond to current crises that are popping up on our radars, and then we have to basically respond to the current events. Lastly, I will conclude with with what is fundamentally new for the Canadian Armed Forces in the last year or so is a creation of an ecosystem around defense and the CAF. By that, I mean a defense industrial strategy to build our Canadian defense industrial complex, a defense investment agency that is setting itself up to streamline procurement processes, get us more responsive to the needs that are constantly and rapidly changing. We also need to include as part of that ecosystem Diana in Halifax that accelerates innovation, bring Canadian companies and others together with challenges in solving defense problems, and Borealis as well. So how do we accelerate innovation and develop applications that can immediately solve military problems? So it really feels like we are not alone in preparing and building a defense for Canada and Canadians. That's a big change, including, and most importantly, support from Canadians for defense. So incredibly enabling for us in getting the necessary support to build an appropriate defense for Canada and Canadians. In the end, what we are really about and what type of effect we are trying to achieve with the development and the transformation of new capabilities for the CAF, along with everything else that we are doing, what we are trying to do is deter. This is really in the end what we want to achieve in terms of military effect, because if we deter, then we can stay away from having to engage in a fight. And again, all the current transformation and change that we are doing in the CAF in building our warfighting capability goes towards delivering that effect. And I'll close it there, Tom. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Chief. You actually brought up probably about half of the panels that we had here over the last couple of days with a view from the Chief side. Thank you. On the last point, that's interesting, deterring with the hope that we don't have to move to conflict. I'm interested in, you've had 18 months in the job now, well into your second year. From your point of view, what are the most significant threats that we are deterring?
So the threat is multidisciplinary. It is not just about one. It's actually the convergence of many of those threats that we are observing. So first of all, we need to be able to think of hybrid threats and gray zone area where you have misinformation, disinformation, cyber attacks, all of those threats that are below the radar of hard military threats coming towards us that destabilize our democracies and institutions. So I would say this scenario is currently at play on a daily basis, and we can't do this alone in this space. There is a lot of work ongoing with our whole of government partners because each have a role to play in this space. Then, you increase the level of threat with isolated conflict that may affect or deteriorate a situation further in some areas, and then finally all-out war, which is what we are currently seeing in the Middle East. So the threats to Canada themselves, it's a mix of all of this. Missile threats coming from Russia, who has developed the technology extensively over the last few years. This technology now can reach our continent, and militarily speaking, this is the one that we need to worry about when we are looking at the Arctic and when we are looking at the defense of Canada itself, which we are doing in partnership with NORAD and our American colleagues. So the threat is complex. It is also multifaceted, and it is also converging, and nowhere better than the Arctic to represent this dynamic at the moment, accelerated by climate change and accelerated by the rapid development of technology.
Right, and the importance of friends as we face those threats. Thank you for that. So you're well into your second year. One of the things that surprised me in taking your position was that there appeared to be no clear boss when I got in. You kind of would have figured it would have been the Minister of National Defense or maybe someone short of that, maybe an NSIA, a clerk maybe, not really sure, and from day to day it sometimes changed. Would you mind raising the curtain a little bit so we know what's going on behind it? What does your average connection group look like? Does it include the PM, cabinet? Have you got a kind of a prime way into the matrix that you deal with so frequently? What's it look like in 2026?
So one thing that basically appears to me as I stepped into this job is clarity at the strategic level as who's the one boss is not necessarily existent, and it is working the network, so maybe I could start by stating what is the role of a Chief of Defense Staff, because it's grounded in the National Defense Act, and it's actually quite simple. It's the control and administration of the Canadian Armed Forces. That's it. That's my job description. So that is quite clear and quite simple. It implies military advice to the government, and this is where my space is within the network of senior leaders within the government. So I have a very close relationship with the NSIA. I have access to the clerk as well. As part of the DM tables, I'm also included. I'm called into cabinet when we have specific files that our minister is presenting. I am always sitting in a room with the deputy minister, and the deputy minister and I are joined at the hip. We cannot do our job without each other. So that relationship is incredibly close and very important, because we can enable each other within our own field of expertise. So I rely a lot on her, her access to the big network that she has that I don't necessarily have, and vice versa, and informing the plan as to what investments are required, what priority do we need to give, and what is feasible within the system is where I input to make sure that our priorities are basically going in the order that they should be. So those relationships are constant and absolutely regular. And on the Prime Minister's side, I do have access directly to the Prime Minister, and our advice, I feel, is very, very welcome as the military expert, understanding that these are recommendations, and in the end he's going to pick whichever one is the best for the government. But I find that working most of the time through the Minister of Defense, of course, And then when there's a big issue, then it's directly to the Prime Minister, because at times he's got the authorities to make decision on specific plans of action that we have. So I think those relationships currently are very close, considering the difficult global environment we have to manage. This network works very, very closely together.
Good. Thinking back to 18 months when you stepped into the office, how's Jennie Carignan different now? What surprised you most about moving into that office?
I think it's the various connections downtown with who works with who, and the security community is much broader than I had initially anticipated. So managing different crisis, an air security incident, for example. So we think that we have all of the aspect on the air side, but Transport Canada has a big role to play as part of this. The RCMP, and so depending on what we are dealing with, we have a community of subject matter experts on the security side that is incredibly dynamic. And what surprised me is how collaborative it is, and how people are actually inputting into all the processes, minding everybody's expertise. So I found that quite refreshing, in fact, with the community of deputy ministers.
Right. I was just going to ask you, you had mentioned personnel. In terms of mobilization, you became extra famous a couple of months ago when you put out the concept of a large supplementary reserve. It was interesting how one periodical took that as an opportunity to go on the full attack mode, while another one took it as an in-depth chance to introduce this idea after an interview with you. So just before we get to that really interesting discussion, let's precede it by another one, and that is, how have you found the relationship with media over the last year and a half? Has it been fair coverage? Is there trust there developing? Have you been burned and stay away? Where do you sit on that?
All of the above. This is part of living in a democracy. I would say there's a level of trust with our media. There is a level of interest which every single time we have the opportunity to engage with the media, it's an opportunity to communicate. And if we don't, well, nobody else but us can actually speak better about what we do and about our institution. So I would say incredibly important. Sometimes we have very complex issue, but 30 seconds to try to make a point across, and anything can be taken. But again, it's that continuous dialogue that is important. And although we may disagree, that is fine as well. In the end, that continuous dialogue and communication through the media is absolutely important. So Canadians can actually make their own minds about the various issues that we are dealing with.
Yeah. To the now idea that became famous several months ago when you put it out there, really interested. There was a lot of discussion about that. In fact, we had some of our Nordic friends in here talking about the things that they've done. I'm wondering where the genesis was for this. Perhaps it was in your linkage with the other chiefs of defense. You were meeting at NATO. Perhaps it was your own idea. Perhaps it was something the government presented to you. Could you give us a bit of background on that?
It's previous conversations that we had with ministers of defense. So this idea of a national service. So we took that on board, and that's the whole thing, is figuring out how we could go about this. The context since those initial conversations has changed as well. So then came the idea of, well, we actually don't have a scalable option. I don't have a scalable option right now for any type of military response. And it reduces the government's options it reduces military options I can offer to the government. And my colleagues, whether we're talking about the Netherlands, France, and the Nordic countries for sure, but also United Kingdoms, we're all looking, the chiefs, we're all looking for scalable options for our government in times of great demand. So this is how this idea came. And then to support as well a Canadian all-domain defense plan, you need some ways of mobilize Canadians for different type of crisis in Canada and abroad, should we go this way. So, okay, so how do we organize ourselves to do this? And then now it's about building option on how we could organize ourselves to do that. So I want to be absolutely clear, we don't have a plan at the moment. We are in the analysis mode. We are figuring out options that could be implemented in Canada that would be suitable for Canada. We already have a bit of a model with supplementary reserve, primary reserve, and reg force. And normally, your reg force are high readiness, they're ready to go. Your primary reserve are part-time, so a lower level of readiness. And then you would have your supplementary reserve, who is access to a pool of individuals with talent and abilities and qualifications that we would need, but not on a permanent basis. So generally speaking, this is kind of the concept, but whole of society opportunity here to develop more resilience as part of our communities. We see it all the time when we deploy to communities for floods or other things, when we show up somewhere and they actually have a plan to respond to a crisis. It is very easy to come in and back and support what they're doing, rather than showing up in communities where they are absolutely not ready, they have no idea who to talk to, and they have not prepared themselves for those scenarios. So it's all about whole of society, providing some leadership training, getting people comfortable for when there's a crisis, they know where to go, they know what to do, they know who to call. So it's also about building resilience and preparedness, and it is not about alarming anybody, but being prepared is always a better place to be.
Yeah. It must be heartening to you now, months later, to see the polls that suggest how many Canadians are out there who are interested in the idea of providing service in time of crisis that years ago they never would have thought of.
And what I have is anecdotal, of course, so it's always good to have a better pulse via empirical ways, but I have people writing to me directly or to the DM directly saying, I'm 60 years old, I'm too old to join the military, but like, how can I help? So, and they have their phone number and they're ready to come. So that's very heartening. And we can absolutely do this. There's a lot of naysayers out there. We can absolutely do this with over 40 million people in Canada. Looking at how Finland is organized with 6 million of population and in a pool of 900,000 to 1 million people to have scalable options, I think we can do this, no problems.
For the record, I didn't get a call back.
Yeah.
I'm right, taking notes, taking notes.
Like on my computer, Guy, yours went into junk. So often at this conference, over recent years, a good number of representatives, not only on the stage, but in the seats here, come from our great friends to the south. This year's different. We had the NATO, U.S. NATO ambassador, the U.S. ambassador to NATO on stage yesterday with the Canadian ambassador to NATO. And we had the U.S. ambassador to Canada here as his close personal protection. On that front, and it's kind of been the elephant over in the corner, we've successfully navigated the 2 days without really coming too close to that by talking around, kind of like our Prime Minister does, how we're going to move ahead in this very quickly changed world. Really interested. On the U.S. front, from your point of view, I know you've developed from your time all over the world and training in the States, all kinds of American friends. Do those relationships remain effective in helping you navigate through these kind of challenging times that we will hope become less challenging?
Of course, we've had many years of collaboration, cooperation with our U.S. counterparts through NATO, through NORAD, and very close collaboration. And not only that, but basically fighting together in many different theaters of operation in the world. So those relationships are totally existent. They are currently extremely important to navigate those turbulent times. So this is how we basically do our work on a daily basis. It's maintaining those relationships. It's managing. It's navigating those changes in policy and posture. So I had a new boss, new government coming into place last March. My U.S. counterpart was basically dealing with a new U.S. administration as well. So our job is to translate the political intention into military effects, and then we basically connect regularly to make sure that this is well aligned, that we understand each other. What some things we could do before, now it's changed. We're not doing it the same way, and we adjust. Those relationships are extremely important to avoid miscalculation or misrepresentation or misunderstanding as part of those military-to-military engagements.
Have you had a chance to meet person to person with General Raisin Kane?
Of course I do, regularly.
Regularly?
Yes, regularly. We do that on many types of forums, but also individually, depending on the situation. So we are immediately in contact when something happens.
Good. The theme for this conference has been the road to 5%. You've spent most of your career working in a forest called 1%. You've got to be tremendously excited about what's happened not only in the last year, but what we're looking forward to. I've saved a couple of minutes here because I want you to do a little big skying for us about, one of your aides de camp is certainly going to take over from you in about 15 to 20 years. And I'm interested in what kind of okay, a couple of looks from them. They didn't know that. What's it going to look like when they take over? What could it? Could you be a bit of an idea? You've been thinking this through a little bit. 3.5% gusting to an extra 1.5%. That's not a force of 75,000 or 78,000 anymore. That's something entirely different. Give us a bit of an idea of what you've been thinking.
So we are crafting in more details what what that looks like for sure, because we are still, we always have difficult decisions to make. We won't get everything that we want, but my sense is that 2035 force will get what it needs. So I think over the course of the next 10 years, we will, for example, move into integrated air missile defense. This is the umbrella that we want to put over top of the Arctic and Canada in collaboration with NORAD and the United States. So we will move into that space. So earlier when I was talking about all domain, and I think General Boivin covered that very well in yesterday's panel, or was it today?
That was today.
It was today, yes. Sorry, it seems like with my days this week, it like yesterday seemed like 100 years ago. So the all-domain defense plan is about integrated air missile defense. It has implication for Army, Navy, Air Force, where you've got your sensors talking to each other. You have technologies laid over top of Canada from space, cyber, land, maritime, underwater, and air. So you've got this going in 10 years' time. We will also have a more robust posture in the Arctic. So we are expecting, of course, more traffic in the Arctic. So we are ramping up our ability to project power in the Arctic, and we want to do that in consultation with the various communities in the north. Which means it's building a defense on prosperous communities in the Arctic as well. So you see here the intersection of the work that we are doing with other partners, with other government departments, because we don't hold the economic development, but this goes hand in hand in the Arctic. So much more robust posture in the Arctic. A more a structured posture in Europe as well. So in the last 10 years, we have grown organically in Europe with the ramping up of activities, including the invasion of Ukraine by Russia. So we have sent more in Europe, but it has grown. Not necessarily, we are operating not optimally right now as to where we should be. So consolidating our presence, our sustainment in Europe is also where we need to go. And then finally, when we look at the Indo-Pacific, the work that we are doing in rebuilding the Navy, in assuming the protection of our coasts, but also project deterring power in the Indo-Pacific is what it looks like also in the next 10 years. And I probably forget some stuff, but I have to recognize the absolute amazing work that this team is doing on a daily basis. Managing, I would say, the main challenge that we have, the CAF at the moment, is managing the work of the CAF, but also working to major transformation towards the future. So that's the amazing work that this team is doing here on a daily basis. And frankly, I couldn't have asked for a better team.
High normal PDRs. Chief, thanks so much for that, and I think probably there'll be a high headline tomorrow that says something about reopening Baden and Lahr. That's not exactly what you said, is it?
That's not what I said,
that's not what you said. Chief, fantastic. Thank you so much, not only for your remarks today, making the time to come here, but for your leadership through these times. You were so very well prepared for it in terms of your operations and leadership, and now we benefit from all of that coming together. Thank you so much for your leadership.
Thank you, Tom.